Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Glad to be here, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Mark, what can't be avoided anywhere on the planet right now, super high oil and gasoline prices. What's your take on it, and where can we take some profit on this?
Well, I've already done that. I've already taken profits. In fact, we took some profit in the gold as well. I mean, you had a little bit of a parabolic advance here. I mean, of course, I've talked in previous broadcasts about how I was bullish on crude oil. I mean, I think it was about $70 or $65, and I was talking about possibly $200 or $300 oil in the years ahead, and then suddenly this Ukrainian event unfolded, and oil takes off, and these embargoes start to come into play. I'm just looking at it in a technical, charting point of view. It got overextended. I mean, big picture, it probably is going a lot higher, but just some huge moves, some of the oils and the oil ETFs and stuff. So bottom line is I sold them, took some profits, so we're on the sidelines. If you're a long-term player, I suppose, you might want to consider hanging in there, but I don't look at the markets that way. I'm not a long-term player in about anything. I mean, honestly, I'm just trading the market. I mean, my background was from the floor, as we discussed many months ago, is, take your profit every day, put the money in your pocket. It's like a job. And let's reevaluate the market the next day. So I'm not a long-term investor, though I do make some comments, and many have been on target with, where the direction ultimately will be. But long-winded responses. I'm sort of on the sidelines here now watching the crude oil, and maybe there'll be another trading entry point, and we'll take a look at it along with the gold ETFs and so forth. So it's, the crisis there is not over. And it's really, funny, we were talking about what's going to bring the market down, and I keep talking about outlier events, always seem to come up, when the market tells you that it's going to come down. Our forecast model we put out early in the year warned that we were going to get a big sell-off, and, we were joking about, well, is it a super volcano? Is it an asteroid? Is it a solar flare? Is it something else, that's geocosmic? Or is it Iran, Israel, or is it Taiwan, China? What could it be? And it turns out to be Russia, Ukraine, which we never even discussed or even thought about. So I did watch an interview with Putin, last night that was, taped back in, June or July of last year on NBC News. And of course you realize in that interview what idiots are at NBC, the kind of questions they ask. But you could tell in his responses that he was unhappy with, the NATO situation and the requests that he had made, and there were plenty of warnings out there, but I wasn't smart enough to put the two and two together that this would be the next outlier event which would throw the world into turmoil. But unfortunately, it's not over yet, and China is sort of behind the whole thing and eager to get its foothold in Taiwan, and we got some serious shit ahead, I can tell you that.
Well, of course, I'm thinking if China believes that so much of the world is now concentrating on the Ukraine situation, what a convenient time to just slip into Taiwan.
Didn't the Chinese ask Putin not to invade Ukraine during the Olympics? I mean, there's definitely communication and planning going on here that we're just, we're hearing about after the fact. So I hear they're going to Taiwan Semiconductors, and I just saw it in the news today. Maybe it's old news. They're going to open a big semiconductor plant here in Phoenix, or maybe it's already under construction, a huge facility So they're I think you considered the best or one of the biggest or both of the semiconductor world manufacturers in Taiwan. So I guess, this is not something they just made up now. They might have been in planning stages to relocate out of Taiwan, but they picked Phoenix for that apparently, and you might want to check that news story. But yeah, I guess they realize they may not be there forever and they better, create plan B just in case.
Would the Taiwanese really upset the Chinese invaders if they blew up their semiconductor plants?
Well, the stock market here doesn't like it because they like the semiconductor stocks, and they're so we had a shortage of semiconductors with this COVID thing and the supply shortages. It's a big component of world business. So Taiwan Semiconductor or others are wise to diversify their holdings, so to speak, just in case China does it. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't happen. It should happen. They've been talking about it for decades. Obviously, the powers that be, which include the United States and others, don't have the testicles to defend Taiwan, or have no intention of doing it in any serious way. We have a U.S. president, which is a joke, and I don't think this would happen under Trump, but maybe I'm wrong. But in any event, they're going to take advantage of weakness, which is what the U.S. is now perceived to have, and it's going to work against all of us, unfortunately.
Well, if you look at how fast Afghanistan turned over, they thought it would take months, a year. It took days.
Right, and it was mishandled on this end. It's just terrible who's in charge. I would like to make a comment, though, that I am not a financial advisor, and I don't give financial advice. I should have done that at the top of the broadcast, just as a disclaimer. But I did want to make a comment. Where possibly one of the real enemies are in this whole conflict in the West, and for some reason you just don't hear it. Maybe you do hear it, but I don't hear it. And maybe it's whispered. But the real enemy that we need to fight now, whether Putin is fighting him and maybe indirectly he is fighting them, but it's George Soros and Klaus in Germany who are pushing for the one world government. And if you read about all the stuff at Davos and all the stuff going on, I don't think Putin very much cares for that. And he's very conservative in both his religious and ethical beliefs, even though you say he's killing a lot of people, and that's not very ethical. But he doesn't like a lot of the movements in the West. We could talk about all the social movements that are underway that discriminate against white people, and the financial shenanigans that Soros has been involved with for decades, and his funding of groups like Black Lives Matter and all the groups that try to create problems and social unrest here. Well, I think one of the big enemies we have, and I believe we're probably allied with, at least I am, with Putin against Soros and Klaus in Europe and Germany, because he's a Nazi, and you've heard Putin talking about going after the Nazis, and they try to downplay that. But there's a lot of stuff out there that we're fighting, and in a way, Putin is defending the West, because the West is going down. If you have Klaus and Soros trying to take it down, and he's against what they stand for, in a way, he's helping us. Now, it's unfortunate that Ukraine is happening the way it's happening. They didn't surrender. It wasn't done peacefully, negotiated, or whatever. And there's other reasons. I'm sure he's doing it because of the Russian population there and his belief that he wants to reconstitute the Soviet Union. But, I just keep saying, who's the real enemy out here? That son of a gun, Soros, and his buddy Klaus, among others, are big problems for the West. And it's not discussed in the media. I guess he's paid off just about everybody, and they're keeping their mouth shut. So I'm really aggravated about it. I don't know how we get rid of this guy, but we got to get rid of him.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, President Biden is making noises about digital currency in the U.S. and regulating cryptocurrencies. Is that the death knell for Bitcoin and other cryptos?
No, actually, I think it's a big plus. The fact that they're recognizing it and they realize probably, as I said before, you're not going to get rid of it. The current cryptos exist, and the non-fungible tokens and all the universe out there is that people don't trust government. They don't trust the currencies. And this is how they, diversify themselves. The biggest money is moving into it. The biggest money. I mean, they're very quiet about it. A lot of press about how Bitcoin or Ethereum had dropped and how risky it is, and they're picking it up, and it's being accumulated, and the governments want to get into the game. They could try to outlaw and stop it. It won't happen. They'd have to shut down the internet and handcuff everybody. There's other, ways of accessing it online in other ways that they can't stop. And, if anything, they try to close it or knock it down, it's going to get even stronger. And, look what's happening, around the world. I mean, it's just, it's a safety mechanism for big money and for institutions. And this is the future, unfortunately, for those who don't believe it. But, cash but we gotta be worrying about that our money in our checking accounts aren't confiscated or disappear overnight. I don't think that's going to be the first step here, but I think you got to diversify and have a bunch of money or a portion of money in a bunch of cryptos, and have a wallet that you can control of, that nobody has access to, and you can segregate your funds. I mean, gold and silver was sort of in this category, for the last 100 years, where if you want to diversify and protect your money, put it in gold and silver, which overall has worked out. I mean, it's still higher, but hasn't run away, but it has been a hedge at certain times, and the government can't get their hands on it unless they're going to demand you, return it, as old Roosevelt did back in the 1930s. But many people didn't. They shipped their coins off to Europe and stored them there, so they didn't have to give them to the U.S. government and follow the orders that were given at the time. But crypto is definitely a positive. To go back to your statement, that basically it's a recognition of the reality. And I know there's been rumors around that the governments want to create their own cryptocurrency. It's actually more of a digital currency. And why did they want to do that, Jim? Because they want to monitor everything you're doing. So if they say overnight all your dollars, whether Canadian or U.S. or whatever, are now automatically converted into a digital account, and your money is still there, they'll say, oh, your money is safe. We're not taking your money. And it's sitting in a digital account at your bank, but it's digital currency, not real currency. They track you, in a way that they can't now. And, I think that's their ultimate goal, just to, create more of the animal farm scenario here for the world. But the question is, many of these people may be smart enough to have their money in other cryptos away from any government action. So, his statement is just a statement of the reality that it exists. It's not some crazy phony thing. Like, remember when Bitcoin first came out? Oh, this is nonsense. It's just a speculation. It doesn't mean anything. No one's ever going to do business with this currency. Turned out everybody's doing business, using the currencies to buy and sell merchandise and trade. And, so that it's just a recognition of the reality. And they probably knew it all the time. They were just trying to discount it, I suppose. But, just a bunch of idiots running the world governments, and those that are socialists, and they want to control everything. That's the unfortunate thing. Getting back to the Putin comment, I mean, he doesn't want that, I don't think. I think he doesn't want to be controlled by a one world government, and I don't think China does either. So, it sounds like unpatriotic to say this, and the people may misinterpret my comments, but, do you want your freedom taken away by, Klaus and Soros, and we have a one world government, and they take all your money that way, or does Russia and China take it away through their political system? You know what I mean? Who's going to take control of us down the road? It appears Russia and China, and maybe more China, is going to end up controlling the world, because they're obviously not run by idiots like the leaders in the West, which include Trudeau and Biden and a bunch of others. So smart people are in charge, and we just have to figure out how to survive that financially and socially during this transition period, which apparently is going to last for many years.
Now, with sanctions against Russia right now, they're one of the major sources of the world's palladium. That's what's used in car catalytic converters.
Right.
Right. So what's that going to do? And
also nickel.
And
also
nickel. Well, the
too.
London Metal Exchange shut down because of a multi-billion-dollar short play on nickel. Shouldn't they just let that tycoon go bankrupt and let people pick up the pieces? Why is that exchange supporting a Chinese tycoon?
And I guess fear of retribution, perhaps. I don't know the exact answer, but we know that China had the upper hand on rare earths and those type of materials that we desperately need, and we're playing with fire, the West, in terms of how we handle these threats and how we handle these demands. I mean, the world needs resources, oil, natural gas, nickel, palladium, we need copper, we need all these things to advance civilization. And by closing things down or restricting trade, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I mean, short term, a lot of research I've read, shutting down banking, the SWIFT system, preventing the trade of oil. All these things are just knee-jerk reactions that have consequences that are far worse than the events that are unfolding in Ukraine in terms of the world as a whole. And I don't know how it's going to change short term, Jim. I mean, we just have nincompoops in charge, and if they had listened to this interview that I put it on my website last night with Putin and NBC News that was done last June, July, it was very clear that all this was coming. They're not listening. He said he didn't want to have NATO on his borders. He said he doesn't want to have nuclear weapons right across the street from him. And he just said, these are simple requests and demands that, were reasonable versus killing a lot of people and invading a country, but nobody pays attention to it, or they're too arrogant. And, we just have a lot of stupid people. And unfortunately, they're getting stupider by the day. So, anyway, our job here at VR Trader, we talked about my newsletter, and we still have a little discount out there if people want it. We're trying to make money from all this and survive during all this turmoil. And fortunately, there's been a lot of volatility. We've been trading, some of the ETFs, the inverse ETFs and the long ETFs. We're catching a lot of the moves, not 100% of them, but we're doing our best. We caught the big move in the golds here, in the oil, some individual stocks that benefit from this turmoil. We hope that everything ultimately settles down and that Putin and the Chinese are basically capitalists when it comes down to the bottom line, when they take over Taiwan or Russia takes over Europe or whatever ultimately happens. They're all looking to make money and improve their lives. We've already learned that. Putin is a capitalist at heart. We know the Chinese are capitalists at heart, even though they say there's other political factors involved. They all want to make money. And the market should continue to prosper in both directions, and there's going to be, bastions of strength and weakness, and hopefully we can catch some of them. So that's what we try to do here, day to day. And, all my comments about, Soros and Klaus and Putin, I can't change anything. Just my personal opinion about stuff, but I'm watching the charts, and you can see what's happening, and we're trying to react to it as best we can. We're now running into the vernal equinox, which is coming up here in a few days, and it's the Ides of March approaching, and sometimes we get market changes of direction around these times. We've talked about this. It's just down to the geocosmic and so forth. So you might get a little bounce out of here, and whether it's news related or not, but I don't know if the big problems are solved because our model is still somewhat negative for the year. So we're just going to take it a day at a time here and see if we can help people.
Mark, thank you so much for chatting with us. And do you still have your special offer for our listeners?
Yeah, sure, guys. If you'd like to take advantage of a 50% off offer, go to vrtrader.com and enter the promo code 2021. We're still using 2021. I haven't had my programmer fix that yet. 2021 half off. 2021 HALFOFF in the promo code slot on the order form, and you get 50% off. Thank you for mentioning it, Jim.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.